On July 3, 2026, the Icelandic Meteorological Office published its updated hazard assessment for the Svartsengi volcanic system on the Reykjanes Peninsula. The language was unchanged from the previous assessment and from the one before that. The most likely scenario, it stated, remains a magma intrusion propagating from beneath Svartsengi toward the Sundhnúkur crater row, and that intrusion could lead to an eruption. The new assessment is valid through September 30th. When the next eruption begins, the warning before it reaches the surface has, in the most recent events, been as short as 20 to 30 minutes. What makes this assessment different from the previous ones is a single number, 27.5 million cubic meters. That is the volume of magma that has accumulated beneath Svartsengi since the last eruption ended on August 5, 2025. It is the largest volume measured between any two eruptions in this entire series. Before the first Sundhnúkur eruption in December 2023, the system had charged to approximately 15 million cubic meters. Before each subsequent eruption, the pre-eruption volume was between 17 and 23 million cubic meters. The system is now at 27.5 million. And the IMO has stated explicitly that because this volume is now greater than before any previous eruption, the next event could be larger than those that came before it. For 3,800 people who have not been allowed to live in their own town for 2.5 years, that statement is not an abstraction. The Reykjanes Peninsula is the southwestern tip of Iceland, a 50-kilometer finger of volcanic rock reaching into the North Atlantic, where the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates are actively pulling apart. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the seam where those two plates diverge at roughly 2.5 centimeters per year, passes directly beneath the peninsula before descending beneath the ocean to the southwest. For most of recorded Icelandic history, this section of the ridge was quiet. The last significant eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula before the current series had occurred approximately 800 years ago. The land had been dormant so long that the farms, fishing villages, and infrastructure built upon it were not designed with active volcanism in mind. That changed in March 2021, when a fissure opened on the slopes of Fagradalsfjall, a volcanic mountain in the peninsula's interior. It was modest, glowing lava fountains in a remote valley, far from any town, attracting thousands of curious visitors who hiked to within viewing distance of it. It was also a signal that the 800-year rest was over. More eruptions followed in 2022. And then, in October 2023, something shifted in the system that changed everything. The volcanic activity moved. Instead of the remote interior valleys, the seismicity, the ground uplift, and the emerging magma dikes began concentrating in a new area, the Sundhnúkur crater row, a line of vents running northeast to southwest just north of the small fishing town of Grindavík. On November 10, 2023, more than 20,000 earthquakes struck the Reykjanes Peninsula in a single day. Grindavík was evacuated. A massive ground rupture, a new Graben Valley, appeared north of the town as magma pushed through the crust below it. GPS stations detected 50 centimeters of horizontal movement across the town in hours. Cracks appeared in roads and buildings. And on December 18, 2023, the first fissure eruption in the Sundhnúkur system began, a 4-kilometer crack opening in the earth north of Grindavík, producing lava fountains and flows that lit the night sky orange. It lasted 3 days. That eruption was the first of 9 in the Sundhnúkur system since December 2023. And each one has tested or breached the limits of what Iceland's protective infrastructure could hold. On January 14, 2024, a fissure opened less than 100 meters from Grindavík's outermost houses. Lava destroyed 3 homes. In the confusion of the rapid onset, the warning had been under an hour, one person fell into a crack that had opened in the ground and was never found. On February 8, 2024, lava from the third eruption severed the hot water pipeline running from the Svartsengi geothermal power station to the homes and businesses of 30,000 people across the Reykjanes Peninsula. Heating was cut for several days across the region. The Svartsengi station, which provides not only hot water but electricity for the southwestern corner of Iceland, had become a front line in a geological conflict that its engineers had not anticipated when they built it. The fourth eruption, beginning March 16, 2024, lasted 54 days. The fifth, beginning May 29th, produced the largest lava field of the entire series. 24 days of fountaining that peaked at an initial flow rate of 1,500 to 2,000 cubic meters of lava per second, covering 15.1 square kilometers of the peninsula in new rock. The lava threatened Grindavík from the west. Defensive earth barriers built by Icelandic Civil Protection and the power company held, barely. By the time the most recent eruption ended on August 5, 2025, Iceland had produced 12 volcanic eruptions on the Reykjanes Peninsula in 4 years, 9 of them in the Sundhnúkur system in less than 2 years. And then the ground went quiet. The longest pause in the Sundhnúkur series had begun. It has now lasted 11 months. During that time, the magma has not stopped moving. It has been flowing into the sill beneath Svartsengi at a rate of roughly 2 centimeters of ground uplift per month, slow, steady, and accumulating toward the number that now sits at 27.5 million cubic meters. There is a paradox in the current situation that the IMO has stated explicitly. The rate of magma accumulation is the slowest it has been in this entire eruptive cycle. Yet the total volume stored beneath Svartsengi is the highest it has been between any 2 eruptions in the series, the IMO has said directly. The fact that accumulation has never been slower while the amount of magma has never been greater increases the uncertainty about what happens next. To understand why this matters, consider how the Svartsengi-Sundhnúkur system actually works. At approximately 4 kilometers beneath the surface, magma from a deep source rises into a flat, lens-shaped reservoir called a sill. That sill acts like a slowly inflating underground balloon. As it fills with magma, the ground above it rises, measurable to the centimeter by GPS stations and satellite radar. When the pressure inside the sill reaches a critical threshold, the magma does not burst upward through the roof. Instead, it drives laterally, carving a new crack called a dike through miles of cooler rock, moving horizontally toward the Sundhnúkur crater row. That dike propagates at approximately 1 kilometer every 10 minutes. When it reaches the surface, it opens a fissure. Lava fountains follow within minutes. The 20-minute warning is not the time from the decision to the eruption. It is the time from the first detectable sign of dike propagation to the moment lava breaks through the surface. The indicators that trigger that warning are precise. An earthquake swarm along the Sundhnúkur crater row. Pressure change is detected in boreholes at the Svartsengi power station. Fiber optic cables registering ground deformation, and GPS stations recording rapid horizontal movement. Iceland has some of the most advanced volcanic monitoring infrastructure in the world. None of it makes 20 minutes feel like enough time. At 27.5 million cubic meters, a volume that exceeds the upper range of what has historically triggered intrusion and eruption in this system, the IMO has added a specific caution that did not appear in earlier assessments. Because the total volume now exceeds anything previously observed between eruptions, the next event could release more magma than any previous one if the sill partially or fully drains into the eruptive fissure. That is not a certainty. It is a possibility that did not exist when the volume was lower. Grindavík, the fishing town of 3,800 people that sits at the southwest end of the Sundhnúkur crater row, has been in a state of interrupted existence since November 2023. Some residents returned between evacuations, finding cracks running through their floors and sulfurous gas in the air on bad days. Some businesses tried to reopen. Some residents decided not to come back at all, formally leaving for good. The homes that lava has already reached on the town's northern outskirts are gone permanently, replaced by a new surface of rough, black basalt that was, until 2024, a neighborhood street. The earth barriers surrounding the remaining town have been raised, extended, and reinforced after each eruption. They have held. They will be tested again. The Svartsengi geothermal power station, which provides hot water to approximately 30,000 homes across the Reykjanes Peninsula and electricity to the surrounding region, continues to operate. Workers have maintained the facility through multiple eruptions, keeping the infrastructure running while lava approached the protective walls their colleagues built around it. The Blue Lagoon, Iceland's most internationally recognized attraction, with approximately 1 million visitors per year before the eruption series began, has closed and reopened multiple times, each closure timed to eruptions and gas hazard windows. It has been a symbol of something unusual, a luxury spa that is simultaneously a monitoring post at the edge of an active volcanic system. Keflavik International Airport, which handles approximately 3.4 million arriving passengers per year and is Iceland's primary connection to the outside world, sits 20 kilometers from the Sundhnúkur crater row. All 12 eruptions in the current series have been fissure events without significant explosive ash production, the eruption type least likely to disrupt aviation. That classification depends on the eruptions continuing to behave as they have. A larger eruption, drawing more magma into contact with groundwater or ice, could change that behavior. Dr. Evgenia Ilyinskaya, a volcanologist at the University of Leeds who has studied the Reykjanes system extensively, said after the 2024 eruptions that the peninsula may have entered a long-term period of frequent eruptions that could last not years but centuries. The geologic record supports that interpretation. Before the current 800-year dormant period, the Reykjanes volcanic zone went through previous active phases that persisted for multiple centuries. What happened in March 2021 may not have been the beginning of a short sequence. It may have been the beginning of a chapter. There are three signals the IMO's monitoring team is watching as the 11th month of the current pause continues. The first is seismicity rate along the Sundhnúkur crater row. The crust in this area has been repeatedly fractured by 9 previous dike intrusions, meaning it now requires less pressure to fracture again. As a consequence, earthquake swarms before eruptions have become smaller and shorter over the course of the series. The warning the next swarm provides may be shorter than the 20 to 30 minutes seen in the most recent events. The second is borehole pressure at the Svartsengi power station. Boreholes drilled to depth through the volcanic system detect pressure changes before surface seismometers do. A sudden pressure spike in those instruments is the earliest available signal that magma is moving. The third is the GPS displacement rate at the SENG station in the Svartsengi area. Uplift of 2 centimeters per month has been the background rate for months. Any sustained increase in that rate would indicate that magma supply from depth has increased, shortening the time until the sill reaches its triggering volume. The sill is already at 27.5 million cubic meters. The IMO's own upper bound for triggering an intrusion or eruption was 23 million cubic meters. The system is 4.5 million cubic meters past that threshold and still filling. The next eruption will begin with a swarm of earthquakes that most people on the peninsula will not feel. Instruments will, boreholes will. Monitoring screens in Reykjavik will light up. And then, somewhere between 20 minutes and 4 hours later, a new fissure will open in the earth along the Sundhnúkur crater row, and Iceland's 13th eruption of this cycle will begin. Grindavík's evacuation sirens are tested periodically. They will sound again before this is over. Subscribe to stay ahead of what's coming.